Hey everybody, this is Brad Bruce, and I'm here with
Jace Marsiglia.
And you are listening to the 5195 podcast. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, my man. Little sleep deprived.
Yeah.
Been a busy week.
We've been going continuously.
Kind of burning the candle at both ends a little bit. For those that don't know, I am here in California. I've been here for 2 weeks. I found a way through my job to do my day job, clear out here on the West Coast, and still find time to podcast, write, hang out, catch movies. And boy, I am going to collapse when I get home tomorrow. Holy shit.
That's
but
awesome.
It's been productive, to say the least.
It has. I'm super pleased with the last couple weeks and the way they've gone, you know, and the things that we've been able to accomplish.
It further proves that even with 2 weeks, which I was like, damn, I've never been out here that long.
Yeah.
It's done in a flash.
It was quick.
I did have lapses where I was just like, I really miss my family. I'm getting homesick. But we were busy enough that I didn't dwell. And now it's over. I mean, just like that. And boy, did we bank a lot of shows for you guys.
And speaking of that, I think we have another really fun show today.
Yeah, I believe so too. This one came up in conversation, I believe.
Yeah.
And we added it to the board.
And so today's topic is going to be film soundtracks. Mm-hmm. Basically our favorite ones.
Just kind of go-tos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That we actually listen to outside of just watching the movie.
Right.
These are things that are in rotation.
Oh, yeah.
That we listen to.
No, the ones I was thinking of, I've taken the CD to my car. Remember CDs, kids? I will listen to these driving to work or, cruising around, getting dinner or whatever.
Yeah.
But these are my go-tos.
There's more than we could even talk about.
There's not enough time.
Yeah, and being able to pick a favorite one is like trying to choose your favorite kid.
Not just that, but like you said before the show, you and I probably agree on most of them.
Yeah.
So trying to, I don't know which ones Brad's picked. He doesn't know which ones I've picked. But we kind of made a list so we're not overlapping and using our time wisely. So I've thrown in some ones that I haven't even really thought about in a while, just in case I have to make that pivot.
And if listeners have been here since the beginning, they're not going to be shocked at mine because I am a creature of habit.
Or mine.
So
I'm very predictable.
And I'm pretty sure they are in agreement with some of these choices.
You know what would be cool? Provided that certain soundtracks, it's a little spotty for soundtracks on this medium, but what if we made a playlist and put it on Spotify? That'd be cool.
Yeah.
You know, the 5195 soundtrack episode playlist.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
That is kind of cool.
But
yeah.
But I mention that because I've noticed, particularly with Spotify, soundtracks are very spotty. I've noticed, especially ones that are not scores, but like various artists, people kind of Frankenstein lists together from other albums because for whatever reason, the album's just not available on Spotify.
Right.
One of the ones we were talking about, The Shining, not on Spotify.
Nope.
And the songs that were on Spotify, at least when I had them on a playlist, have been grayed out. So they've since been pulled. The Exorcist is another one. The soundtrack's just not there. You can listen to Tubular Bells, which is the theme, but kind of hard to track down. Which is, again, it reinforces what Brad and I were talking about episodes back about physical media. I'd much prefer to be able to just yank the CD or vinyl off the shelf and spin it at my leisure. For that very reason, because who knows? You could have the soundtrack for years online, streaming, and a licensing issue happens, and now you don't have it anymore.
Yep.
So it kind of sucks.
You want to go first?
Sure. You want to just get the obvious one out of the way. John Harrison's Creepshow.
Now, for the first time, the masters of horror, Stephen King, author of Carrie, Cujo, and The Shining, and George A. Romero, creator of Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead, have teamed up to make a movie that will give you the creeps. Creepshow. The most fun you'll ever have being scared. Rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent.
In all fairness, it's on my list too.
Is it?
Yes.
To be honest, it was... I've mentioned before, I love the blending of piano pounding and synth. And to me, it's just as iconic a theme as Carpenter's Halloween or Nightmare on Elm Street, or Harry Manfredini's Friday. It's just that recognizable. It's immediately recognizable, especially if you're a fan.
Right.
But if I could go a smidge deeper, the track that stands out to me the most, and it's because it pairs with the movie so well. It's when John Harrison does kind of a darker medley on Camptown Races.
Okay.
And Something to Tide You Over. There's the shot, because it's that boom, 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 boom. It starts like that, but then the synth kicks in, and there's a moment where, as the tide's coming in, and it hits the television, and Ted Danson sees his girlfriend Galen Ross fizzle out on the TV. What John does with that synth, he gives it this beautiful but almost sad, woeful medley that kind of goes up and down. And even talking about it right now, it makes my hair stand up, because at that moment, strangely enough, he's officially alone.
Yeah.
Granted, he's watching his girlfriend drown on a television, but when her image disappears, the isolation hits. Now you don't even have your significant other suffering with you. You're alone and you're drowning. And the way John plays with those notes during that moment, it's so haunting and it's beautiful at the same time. Of all the tracks, I love every track on the soundtrack, but that's the track that I go to a lot, just because it's emotionally resonant,
No, it is. It's just as big a character as the characters themselves.
100%. And he did it on a lark, I think, because I want to say Romero usually used library music.
Right.
For most of his movies. Dawn, granted, he used Goblin.
Yeah.
But there's a whole soundtrack of library music that goes to Dawn and Night and all that. He was just going to use library cues. And there's a lot of library cues in Creepshow.
Yeah.
But John Harrison was like, let me take a crack at a theme.
Yeah.
And George loved the theme. And he was like, you want to do more?
Yeah.
And he was like, sure. And most of the movie is basically every story has its own character musically.
Right.
And it's great. It's not just the same theme that permeates the movie and goes up and down. Each story has its own weird sound.
Yep.
Particularly, they're creeping up on you.
Yes.
Which just sounds like a Jacob's ladder. It sounds like electricity. It goes up and down.
Yeah.
And it's so weird. And when you're in the car listening to it and it starts going crazy with that, you could hear the little feet of roaches crawling everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful, beautiful soundtrack. I love Creepshow so much.
They are all very different.
Very. Each story is its own mood, and John finds it.
Completely
every
captured
fucking
it.
time. Even Jordy Verrill, it's such a goofy story, and the soundtrack reflects it.
It does.
That story, out of all of them, probably has the most library cues, but the wonky synth to that one, it gives it the cartoonish flavor that the short has.
That haphazard.
Yeah, it's just kind of goofy. And I think part of what makes the movie scary, I've always said that Creepshow moves up. Mm-hmm. The first two stories, Father's Day and Jordy Verrill, I think, give you a false sense of security. Oh, this is just funny.
Yeah.
By Something to Tide You Over, for lack of a better term, the tides change.
Yeah.
Because this is a darker story. It's not as funny. It's a little bit scarier. And then the stories after that, the crate and the bugs, it just keeps getting worse and worse. And he ramps the soundtrack up with it. And to me, the movie gets scarier and more serious. Granted, every story's got its laughs, of course.
Right.
But arguably, Something to Tide You Over, the crate, and they're creeping up on you are more aggressively frightening.
Yes.
Than the two that made you think this was just going to be a comedy.
Yep.
So the soundtrack is pivotal,
yes,
in my opinion, to what makes Creepshow what it is.
I totally agree. So one for me that's going to come as a big shock is E.T.
Extraordinary, imaginative, enchanting, touching, exhilarating, timeless. The summer's best movie. This is what critics and audiences alike are saying about Steven Spielberg's E.T., the Extraterrestrial. The movie Gene Shalit said should be seen again and again. E.T., the Extraterrestrial. Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested.
Of course.
I know.
What a rousing score that is.
Yes.
Like that theme, immediately recognizable, and it sends you flying. It really does.
Yeah, it literally, for me, it's just the complete package.
Yeah.
You know, I love every single track, and you can listen to every track and know what scene it is without even looking at the title.
100%.
You know where it's at, you know, and of course that's just the genius of John Williams and what he's able to do. One thing that I really wanted to do, and I don't know if he's going to do it again or not, but I was actually out of town when it happened. John Williams had played at the Hollywood Bowl.
Oh, wow.
And he had done E.T. while showing the movie. So he's on stage conducting the orchestra while E.T. was playing, and it was like so heartbreaking because I'm seeing people I know posting pictures.
Oh man.
And I was out of town, and it's like, oh, I hope he does it again.
Having this experience that I'm not.
Yeah. Oh, and especially it's like, you know, it's hometown, you know, it's Hollywood Bowl.
Yep.
You know, it's like, God, this is one of those things where it's like, am I ever going to get a chance to see this? But yeah, it's so relatable to my childhood.
Yeah.
I don't even have to watch the movie, but hearing the soundtrack, I'm able to just feel that way.
It transports you immediately. Yeah. And what I like about it is being the next movie after Raiders of the Lost Ark. Williams still has a little bit of that adventure. There's a little bit of that menace.
Yeah.
And the part I'm really thinking of especially is just before the bike goes flying, when you see the cops with the guns.
Yep.
That's when you get a little bit of that touch of Raiders in there where it's like, ooh, danger.
Yeah.
And then once they bounce right off the hoods and fly, the theme kicks in.
Yep.
And it's amazing. Yeah, it's unmistakably Spielberg Williams.
Oh yeah, especially like seeing it in the theater. You know, if I do get a chance whenever it plays to see it in the theater, it's like it'll still bring a tear to my eye. That moment when they're flying,
it's amazing.
Yeah,
and again, like Harrison and the Creep Show, obviously to a lesser degree, Williams has a way of taking a amazing moment and just knocking it out of the park with the way it uplifts.
Yeah,
fantastic soundtrack.
No, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, I really do like.
I actually don't have that soundtrack.
E.T.?
Actually, I take that back. I think one of the DVD sets I've got
come with it. Yeah, that one comes with it.
The big one, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So then I have it there.
Yeah, you do. I was gonna say, don't say that.
Yeah, no. I've got a lot of John Williams stuff at home, but
yeah,
I was thinking of it more in terms of, is it on my soundtrack rack? And it's not.
Yeah.
It's part of the gift set.
Okay. What else you got?
This one's a little off the beaten path. Tales from the Crypt's Demon Knight.
A stranger is coming.
Don't scream.
And he's hungry for their souls.
Just hear what I've got to say.
Now, they're fighting the most dangerous evil of all. Tales from the Crypt presents Demon Knight Rated R. Starts Friday.
Okay.
Now, this one's not a score.
Right.
This one is a compilation album.
Various artist stuff.
But this was mid-90s. And me in the early 90s, I was just getting into the metal scene.
Okay.
I kind of bypassed the entire grunge phase. Okay. While everyone was listening to like Nirvana and Pearl Jam, I was looking for harder stuff. The horror fan in me was like, ooh, a Tales from the Crypt soundtrack. So I grabbed it. I hadn't even seen the movie. And when I got it, that soundtrack is what introduced me to Pantera with Cemetery Gates, which is a masterpiece.
Yep.
You got Diadems by Megadeth. There's Machine Head. And of course, Hey Man, Nice Shot by Filter, which was, I believe, the opening credits of the movie. It was kind of the main theme. I wore that. I got the cassette and I wore that tape the fuck out.
Yeah.
It was so good. Every track was just aggressive and mean. It's got Biohazard on it, Sepultura. Just the perfect mix of early to mid 90s metal. Basically, that was the soundtrack that made me go, maybe I should collect more soundtracks. Because in one shot, you could be introduced to potentially anywhere from 10 to a dozen new bands.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was big on collecting compilation soundtracks just to expand my band knowledge.
Right.
Yeah, I was an immediate fan of like Pantera and Megadeth and stuff like that because of Demon Knight. It's just it's a great metal soundtrack. And my hair still stands up a little bit when I hear Hey Man, Nice Shot.
Oh, for sure.
Especially when you find out what it's about.
Right.
You know,
it's just, that backstory is pretty wild.
The backstory is nuts, but it fits Demon Knight like a glove. It is such a perfect opening song.
Yep. So another one for me, and it's going with like not really various artists because the artists, the characters in the film perform the soundtrack.
Okay.
And this is 1975's Rocky Horror Picture Show.
20th Century Fox has brought you all kinds of movies. But 20th Century Fox has never before brought you anything like the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Doing the time war.
The Rocky Horror Picture Show is wonderfully weird. It's fabulously freaky.
We are ready for the floor show.
The story is strange.
I knew he was in with a bad crowd, but it was worse than I imagined.
The songs are super.
Just a sweet transvestite.
The cast is completely crazy.
Oh, Rocky!
See the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Rated R. Under 17. Not admitted without parent.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I do like musicals.
Do you?
Yes. And I was fascinated with this film as a kid. First time I saw it, obviously not in 1975, but
Sure.
it was, years later at a theater I was taken and quickly ushered out of the theater.
Really?
Just because my dad took me to see it.
Yeah.
And all my dad took from the title was horror.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there, and then as soon as Frankenfurter is sitting in the chair and he stands up and he whips the cape off and he's in lingerie,
Full-on
bustier.
lingerie.
Yeah. And he looks at me and he's just like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
I was like, it's a Rocky Horror Picture Show. And he was like,
I'm
no, it
good.
ain't.
I'm good.
So we left, but I was able to get it on VHS when I worked at a video store.
Okay.
And watch it in its entirety. And I don't know, it was just such a fun movie.
I've never seen it to this day.
Really?
I'm not a musical guy.
Okay.
For one. And it was just so garish.
Yeah,
That I was
yes.
like, I don't know if this is even meant for me. Because the musical thing already kind of put me off. And what's weird is, this is what's strange. I personally, the musicals I like are pre-70s. For some reason, the showmanship of Mary Poppins or White Christmas, Wizard of Oz, there was just something different about musicals up through the 50s and 60s. A vibe. I don't know what it is.
You West Side Story fan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is, to me, that's funny.
Right.
'Cause anything beyond that just feels weird to me when people just break into song. And
Right.
I don't know what it is. I can't explain it. Maybe it's because I watched a lot of those when I was a kid and had nothing to compare it to. But as I got older and I got more into plots and stuff like that, seeing someone in the middle of a conversation just spin around to the camera and start singing
Right.
seemed ludicrous to me.
Right.
And
right.
it took me out of it.
Yeah.
That having said that, though, I want to see Rocky Horror Picture Show, if only because A, I'm a horror fan, and why not?
Yeah.
Because it's considered one of the best.
It is.
But
yeah.
B, it's such a cult classic, and people have so much fun dressing up and going to these events that I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I just got to watch it. Now, having said that, are you a fan of, is it Shock Treatment? Or
Yes,
Shock-
I am. Yeah.
Is that the name of it?
Yeah, Shock Treatment.
Is it a spiritual sequel or is it just a sequel?
Wow, that's a good question.
Because I thought I heard at least most of the people came back, or at least
A lot of characters came back. And now it's not as, in my opinion, it's not as good.
I've never heard anyone
because
say
I also
otherwise.
I also get like the American Graffiti, more American Graffiti kind of a thing where it's like American Graffiti is great, and then more American Graffiti is like, eh.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've never seen Rocky Horror, I definitely recommend watching it.
Just to say I did.
Yeah, and then I wouldn't jump immediately into Shock Treatment unless you find some sort of, something about it where you're like, you know what, this is actually really good, and you're into it. But if you just watch it and you're like, okay, that was cool, I'm done, I'll probably never watch it again, don't watch Shock Treatment.
Got it.
Just saying, you know.
It. Because if one didn't sell you, the other's not going
Right.
to either.
Yeah, because
I gotcha.
I think Shock Treatment's a little more rough around the edges. I don't know. I this is just my opinion, but Rocky Horror Picture Show is just, I don't know. It's just so grandiose.
Yeah.
And it's so over the top, with just the characters, and the songs are fucking fantastic. And what I like about the Rocky Horror Picture Show is the soundtrack. When you listen to it, it's exactly how they are in order in the movie.
Okay, so
So when they break into
song,
so when they break into song like on track 1, that's the opening credits, and then how it goes. And it was Richard O'Brien who plays Riff Raff. This was his baby, and every Halloween, it's literally Carpenter's Halloween, and I watch The Shining, and I watch Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Really, those are the three.
Those are the three,
and that's tradition.
100% tradition.
And you've maintained it?
Oh yeah,
no kidding.
Oh yeah,
Very cool.
that is a must. I used to watch The Shining. I had a black and white TV that I used like these UF adapters with the screws to plug into the back with a coax, and then hooked a VCR to it.
Yeah.
And that's how I watched The Shining.
I had the same TV growing up. The exact same.
I would basically watch it how they showed it on TV.
Wow, no kidding.
And what's funny is the VCR that I had still had a tracking dial. So honestly, I know that I fucking sound like a nut, but I would take the tracking and just alter it a bit just to get a slight askew in the picture. And I had this weird experience of I felt like I was a kid watching it on TV.
Right.
Yeah, it was like the sound was bad, but it was just something
part
interesting.
Of the experience.
Yeah, there was something interesting about watching it on that, and then obviously the soundtrack, because it's, for me, that's another soundtrack on my list is The Shining.
The Shining, a masterpiece of modern horror, directed by Stanley Kubrick, starring Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall, rated R, opens Friday, June 13. Check newspapers for local listings.
Yeah.
I know you're not the biggest Shining fan.
No, but I can appreciate the dread of that movie.
Right.
And the soundtrack does play a major
It really
part.
does. Like that opening shot with the car going up the mountain and that sound, it's
and
like...
just the way the credits kind of one at a time pass by you.
Yes.
It is a very strange, almost otherworldly theme.
Yeah, because you literally feel like, what am I about to experience?
Yeah.
It's because it's this big shots of all the landscape. And I think it was almost, I don't know, I could be like overthinking it maybe the way Kubrick did, but it was like, that was your last bit of freedom.
Sure.
This is the last
bit
time.
of scenery you're going to have too.
Then the claustrophobia sets in.
Yeah.
And the score just mimics that through the whole thing.
I couldn't tell you what the instrument is, but it's, you know exactly what I'm talking about, you being a bigger fan even. Near the end where it almost sounds like, I don't want to say like steel rattles.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
The guy with the bullet hole in his forehead. Great party. You know, that theme
right
is so unnerving.
Yeah.
Compared to any, stinger or even a low synthy thing. It's just, it doesn't sound like music.
Right.
And that makes it intimidating.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
And that's part of the appeal, I think, is that nothing you're seeing is right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I'm with you with the soundtrack on The Shining.
Yeah.
It's almost just noises.
Yes. Yeah.
Aside from the main theme, obviously, but
and it adds to the mental illness breakdown.
Yeah,
that he's suffering.
It doesn't sound right.
Right.
It's the kind of thing you would just put your fists against your forehead.
Yeah.
So I get that one for sure.
Yeah.
Was that one on your list too?
Yep.
Okay.
So sorry, I snuck in too.
No, that's okay, man. What's funny is I'm about to sneak in two as well.
Okay, good.
But they're for the same movie.
Okay.
So my next one is the Christine soundtrack.
She lives.
What do you mean came back?
She loves.
I'm sorry, Arnie, I can't.
She's a beauty.
I know you're jealous.
She's a beast.
The kid was cut in half, Arnie.
She's a killer.
The riot is over.
She's a 58 Fury. She's Christine.
You ain't mad, are you?
Christine. She's hell on wheels. Rated R. Coming soon to a theater near you.
By Carpenter and Howarth.
Okay.
Okay. So one soundtrack is the score, and then you've got the oldies that
Yes.
Christine actually plays. I absolutely love the synth score. Arnie's love theme. It's poignant. It's beautiful. Kill Your Kids.
Yeah.
You know, just before the football, just after the football game. There's, when you really stop and think about the book or the movie, you're like, a killer car. And it's not a scary film.
No.
It's intense. It's got intense moments. But to me, the movie is sad.
Oh,
the movie makes me sad.
Yes.
It's a beautiful film. It's a great film. Keith's performance, Keith Gordon.
Yes.
To watch him go from the most cliche nerd right down to the tape on the glasses to bullheaded greaser with wild eyes, you know, he crosses the entire gamut. And the way Carpenter and Howarth blend the score with his change, it's both poignant and sad and slightly menacing in a way that I haven't really heard before or since in a Carpenter film.
Okay.
Because it's very familiar. There's elements that you're like, it's so Carpenter.
Yeah.
You know, it feels like Halloween 3 or, you know, Escape from New York. But there's no, the two of them do things with this soundtrack that I haven't heard to that degree in any of the others. And that's what I love about the score to that one, is because it kind of emphasizes the menace and sadness. And then you've got the songs that appear in the film, which are all, you know, oldies. It's all with the exception of Bad to the Bone by Thorogood. The one that stands out to me, and it was in Back to the Future as well, I didn't even notice for years until I started really listening to this song, Pledging My Love by Johnny Ace. I just remember it playing when, I want to say Arnie gets reamed out by the guy whose garage he's keeping Christine in. And you see him get into the car. He just rests his head on the steering wheel. The car plays Pledging My Love. And it's a beautiful song. I've always loved it.
It's haunting.
It's haunting, but it's like the car's comforting her boyfriend. And it's so sad. It seems weird. It seems kind of pathetic, but just the way he rests his head on the steering wheel and kind of rubs the dash.
Yeah.
You're like, this poor kid. This poor kid. And the song makes you feel bad.
Yeah.
As pretty as it is. But then you get, in my opinion, the best song on the soundtrack, A Harlem Nocturne by the Viscounts.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one that plays when you first see Christine, the show me part.
Yeah.
When she's putting herself back together, that sax and that low bass.
Yep.
It's sexy. It's creepy. It's so weird. There's nothing burlesque about it, but at the same time, the car is revealing herself to him in a weird strippy kind of way. But that old jazzy, you know, I fucking love that song.
Yeah.
And I could just cruise around at night with the windows down listening to Harlem Nocturne. It's just so good. But yeah, that's kind of my twofer for one movie, because I feel like the songs they bought for the movie mix perfectly with the score.
Yeah.
So to me, it's a twofer. You can't buy one without the other.
Right.
You got to have them. Yeah. Christine's kind of my sneaky twofer for you.
Well, I have one that you're definitely going to agree with, and I'm sure it's on your list.
Okay.
It's 1980's The Fog.
It is night. It is cold. It is coming. For all those who can hear my voice, look into the darkness across the water. Look for the fog. John Carpenter's The Fog. What in the living hell is out there? John Carpenter's The Fog. Coming soon from Avco Embassy Pictures.
Now, it is on my list.
Yeah, okay. I kind of figured it would be. So
I fucking love it.
Here's the weird part. Not that I don't like The Fog, because I do, but I love the soundtrack more.
I could see that.
And I actually listen to the soundtrack more than watching the film.
Really?
Yes. I will put it on, like if I'm writing a script, I don't write to songs with lyrics. I write to scores.
Okay.
Because for some reason, I don't know, maybe it's just, the low capacity brain.
Well,
but when I'm hearing lyrics, I'm like inundated. And so I'm almost like, I can't focus. But with a score, I'm somehow lifted into the mood I'm trying to create.
I can see that.
And
I've done that.
You're right. And with The Fog, I do it a lot.
The Fog is more than just being songs. It's ambient.
Yeah.
It's eerily ambient. And like a lot of people will not agree with me on this, but I like The Fog more than Halloween.
Okay.
And it's not that I don't like, I absolutely love Halloween.
Right.
To me, The Fog is Halloween, but with actual ghosts on a nautical setting, which I'm a sucker for. Any horror that takes place by the water just creeps me out. But there's something almost gothic about it. And it's just your perfect. It even starts as a campfire story. And it just, to me, there's something about The Fog that hits me in childhood fear than Halloween does. Halloween's very primal.
Right.
You're just scared.
Of course.
Whereas The Fog really, like a fog would, creeps in slow, gets under your skin. And to me, it was just the Halloween plus.
Yeah.
Okay? Having said that, the soundtrack, particularly Reel 9,
okay,
which I think might be the last track on the album, which is probably like 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But that's when the shit's hitting the fan in the movie, where you get that, dun, 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 it's creepy as all fuck, and it makes your hair stand up.
Yeah.
But it's, I 100% love listening to The Fog when I write.
Yeah.
And again, it's another one like Christine, where it doesn't sound like anything else Carpenter did.
Agreed.
It's a very strange, eerie soundtrack.
Yep.
It's
like you can hear it and a note, and you know exactly what movie it's from.
Yes, it pairs incredibly well with the visuals.
Right. Yeah.
I especially like, I forget the name of the track. It's the moment where Tom Atkins and Jamie Lee Curtis are in the lower deck of the ship where his friends disappeared. And he's telling her that story about the coin his dad found. Just that low, eerie score.
Yeah.
It's not much.
No, it's very faint.
Very faint. It adds something to it that's so scary. It's another soundtrack that's impeccably paired with the film.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
And you know what? I would love to pick some of these composers' brains about that, because it's like, especially composers that are either have worked with these filmmakers or the filmmakers are the composers themselves.
Sure.
And it poses the question, did you have this in mind while you were making this? Or did you just make it and know I'll be able to whip up something that's going to really add to this scene?
Just me not being a musician, I almost feel like I'd have to watch the movie and play with notes as I watched.
Because that's what I was thinking.
And that's the thing. Like you said, it's a good point. If you're the filmmaker, writer, director, and composer, who knows what's rattling around in your brain as you're writing? That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But that's something I would love to find out.
Yeah.
I would love to find out.
Yeah, that would be cool. Especially with John
Harrison?
Carpenter.
Oh, Carpenter.
Yeah, just
Carpenter
because
for sure, because no two are alike.
No, that's the point.
It's
That's
so cool.
because it's like I would probably have my answer if they all sounded the same.
Sure.
So it almost seems like, no, this guy knows what he's doing in his head music-wise while he's making the film.
Right.
He knows what he's going to make. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but the fact that they are so different from one another, it almost feels like in his mind, while he's writing this, he's like, this is how the sound is going to come out. This is the score.
I would love to know that for sure.
I would
because
too.
honestly, I have to have music to conjure images and not the other way around.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
it's inspiration.
And like what you were saying, you can't listen to music with lyrics while you write. Whereas me, if I'm writing something particularly aggressive, something mean, something ugly, I'll put on metal. I need that, I need that really hard, nasty.
Yeah.
But if I'm writing something scary, I go to scores.
Yeah.
And it's not like scary violent, just like I want that eerie ambience to put me in it.
Right.
And the Fog, Creep Show, And I know it's a little off topic, but anything by Midnight Syndicate.
Oh, yeah.
Very ambient, very creepy. But they were a go-to for me as well for writing.
Right.
Midnight
right.
Syndicate almost couldn't fail me.
Yeah. I remember one time I was writing the Vinyl Redemption short.
Okay.
And there was a scene that actually I took out of the movie because I felt it was too mean.
Okay.
Okay. But it was funny because
kind of didn't match the tone.
It didn't make sense.
Okay.
But it was funny because I had hit up Adam Green and I was like, hey, I'm writing this scene. I need something hardcore.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, yeah, no problem.
And he's definitely one. He's got his soundtracks. Like, yeah. His record collection's nuts.
And he literally was like, anything by Deicide.
Oh.
And I put it on and I was like, this is scary.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't.
Yeah, no.
And when I tried it, and I even told him after I was just like, thanks, but yikes.
Yikes.
Because I mean, don't get me wrong, it fit with the scene.
Sure.
It was just so like drilling in my head.
Too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually what made that scene mean.
It could be.
You know? And then actually when I went back and I read it, I was just like, okay, no, I gotta take the scene out.
Yeah. It took you right into something else.
It did.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
I definitely understand that. One of the ones for me, I'd written a script. I've told you about this one. It was sort of my monster one. A bunch of converging stories. There's a big fight scene in a cemetery between two monsters. And the song that I used to write it to was Chaos BC by Sepultura.
Okay.
It's so tribal and so mean and it sounds like tribal drums in a stadium full of people stomping. You know what I mean? It's just such a aggressive fight song.
Yeah.
And unlike yours where it maybe pushed you too far, I've had people read that fight scene and they're like, that is fucking awesome. And I'm like, you have no idea the beats I was listening to when I put this together. They're just like, it's nasty. Like, it's a brutal fight. And I'm like, well, it's two monsters.
Yeah.
You know, they're not going to slug it out like Piper and Keith and They Live. You know, I'm like, this is going to be mean, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, that one. And then another one I think I did was Bleed by Meshuggah, which is just an assault of a song.
Yeah. And that was on his list too. He had sent me like 4.
Oh, he had Bleed on there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Meshuggah,
yeah.
You can't fuck with that. Yeah, no, that is super cool. The Fog, wonderful soundtrack. I love it so much.
It's great.
I'm going to pivot a little bit. One of my favorites that I will put in the car, and specifically, if you have it, the collector's edition. It has additional songs, and one of them is the one I lean on. The Pulp Fiction soundtrack.
What do 2 hitmen, 1 girlfriend, a boxer, and a secret suitcase have in common? That's a good question. The answer? The most entertaining film of the year. Pulp Fiction, rated R.
Fucking fantastic. Obviously, it's not score, but there's a lot of just instrumental music on there. Obviously, Misirlou immediately puts you right into that pulpy...
Yeah, it's that surf music.
It's a party song. Surf music, exactly. Yeah. And then the Brothers Johnson, Strawberry Letter 23. It's just so, it's amazing. And what's funny is I associate that one more with Jackie Brown. That's the scene where Jackson puts Chris Tucker in the trunk.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just, you immediately are right there. But Tarantino's, the impression he made with the soundtracks to his movies, I know a lot of it's very 70s, 60s and 70s, but if I'm writing something in the crime vein, I need that kind of tunage.
Yeah.
Because I've told you before, I grew up reading Elmore Leonard. And Elmore Leonard's books, you know, he did like Out of Sight, Get Shorty. You know, these are all ones that kind of lend themselves to that type of music as well, as much as a book can, you know. But for some reason, the Pulp Fiction soundtrack in particular... And again, Strawberry Letter 23, I think, is a bonus track if you got the anniversary one.
Yeah.
It's just a great soundtrack to listen to and write complex crime.
Almost
noir.
Yeah, I think Tarantino has an ability with soundtracks that a lot of filmmakers don't.
They don't, and I think they try too hard to emulate it.
They do.
And just because you put a surfer song to your violence doesn't mean you're being hip or clever.
Right.
Or,
If you look at the complexity of where he places these songs
Yes.
with the scenes, it's more methodical than just, this sounds cool, I'm putting it here.
Right. There was a time where, just because of Reservoir Dogs, people would take an innocuous song and put it to something gruesome or violent, like he did with Stuck in the Middle. And you can't do that all the time. In fact, Tarantino's the only one who should.
Technically, you shouldn't do it.
You know what I mean? Because now you're clearly just aping.
Mm-hmm.
No, I like the weird vibe I get put in listening to Pulp Fiction, because it takes me back to early 90s, takes me back to when I was inspired to write stuff outside of horror.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird that the type of transport that soundtrack puts in me, and it makes me want to write pulpy, gritty crime noir stuff.
Yeah.
I
mean, it was AM radio in the purest form.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. And it crosses a major gamut. There's rock songs, there's country songs, there's the surfer stuff.
Nothing
obviously.
poppy.
Not at all.
No,
Nothing modern.
No.
But it's a solid soundtrack.
I mean, I feel like we could actually do an entire show on Tarantino's music catalog for his films.
Absolutely. Easily.
Which would be fun to do.
It would be.
From beginning to end.
Absolutely.
After his 10th.
Ooh, we should wait until he's giving us his swan song.
Yeah. I think that would be a fun one to do. But,
okay.
So you got Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you have it?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't. Because I felt like it was just like too easy.
I thought so too.
But I'm glad you did it.
Yeah,
because at least we're on the same page.
Yeah, and I questioned it a little bit, but then I'm like, I don't just listen to it because it's cool. I listen to it because of what it evokes.
Yeah,
that's a go-to for me.
I do have one. It's a horror film.
Mm-hmm.
It is a cult classic, but it's not your Chainsaw Massacre or your Freddy or all of those guys. But it is still. It's a movie that when I saw it in the theater in 1982. Scared the living shit out of me, almost to Exorcist level.
Really?
Yeah, and that was The Entity.
20th Century Fox presents one of the most extraordinary cases in the history of psychic research. The story of Carla Moran. A story so shocking, so threatening, it will frighten you beyond all imagination. The Entity. Rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent.
And of course, Charles Bernstein doing that theme.
Ugh.
And I remember, because there are lots of songs on the soundtrack, but that particular theme that Bernstein did,
pounding one,
and they used it.
It's oh god, I mean it's sick.
Mm-hmm.
It really is, and I'm sure that was the intention. That theme is aggressive,
very aggressive,
and it just makes the entire assault so filthy. I couldn't imagine it being used in something like I Spit on Your Grave.
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine how much nastier, in The Entity it works. And again, it's a testament to Hershey's performance. On screen, it's horrifying, but the music has to substitute the visual for a ghost.
And it does.
Terrifying.
In a big, bad way,
Terrifying.
It definitely does. And
that's one of the few ghost movies that makes me genuinely uncomfortable.
No, it does. Yeah, it is. It's very unnerving.
It's funny that you said that when I really thought you were teeing up Poltergeist.
Really? Okay, well, yeah, that makes sense.
You said 82, and Poltergeist, did Carol Ann's theme, was that up for an Academy Award?
I believe it was.
Just like the Amityville theme, the chorus of children.
Yeah.
And it's just so creepy and sad. I've always found Carol Ann's theme heartbreaking just because I associate it with the little girl who died,
course.
But I thought that's where you were going.
Oh, really? Yeah.
But when you said The Entity, I was like, oh,
yeah.
It's, and what's funny is you mentioned the true case. So much of that true case is not even in the movie. It's so much scarier than what they shot.
Mm-hmm.
And yet the movie is still unnervingly disturbing.
It is.
Despite the fact that they could have made it even scarier.
Yeah.
Based on
I feel like that might have been budget
Probably.
You
that
know,
makes sense.
You know, I think it might have been budget where it's like, we got to really drive it home with score, you know, because I mean, you know, even the effect, the prosthetic she wore.
You're talking about the scene where she's on the bed?
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, this is fucking awful.
It is.
You know, as a kid, I was like, I want to go home. I don't want to be in here.
And it was basic. When I think of that scene, the behind the scenes to that one, it's very Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
I just think of Kevin Bacon in the bed. Yeah.
I bet you do.
Of course. I wanted that joint. My next one is, we mentioned the soundtrack that just sounds kind of like noise, like The Shining. This one is Carl Zitterer's Black Christmas.
Remember those idyllic scenes out of your childhood? Crisp winter nights, sleigh bells, crackling Yule logs? Remember those? Remember them well. After Black Christmas, they'll never be the same again. Black Christmas. If this movie doesn't make your skin crawl, it's on too tight.
Rated R.
From the 70s.
Okay.
For one thing, the soundtrack creeps me out because basically he takes regular Christmas caroling and dials a warp into it to make it sound weird.
It's distorted.
It's distorted and kind of drawn and haunting, and it's really weird. But a lot of the stingers in that movie just sound like he took a weight and dropped it on the piano.
Yeah.
And it's jarring.
Yeah.
You know, it just, you hear notes.
Right.
There's no real music, but it's just, you know.
Yeah.
And it's unsettling.
Right.
Because so much of that movie is very quiet.
Uh-huh.
And you almost forget that the carolers are kind of painting a mood. And when he distorts it, particularly during the scenes where you're in Billy's point of view, it's almost like this is what carolers sound like in his warped head.
Yeah.
You know. And what's funny is people could argue that the score is lazy because it just kind of sounds. I always think of the scene where Keir, is it Dula? I forget how you say his name. It's from 2001. Olivia Hussey's boyfriend.
Okay.
When he bombs at his recital, you got that scene where he like picks up a mic stand or something and starts beating the piano chords, the strings inside. Uh-huh. That's kind of what the score sounds like, but it fits. It's a weird, distorted, clanging, and it's Shining-like, in my opinion.
Okay.
In that regard.
Yeah.
But what I like about it is the score is used so sparingly. When it does hit that weird jarring, you know, it's jolting. It wakes you up like, oh fuck, you know, he's still in the house.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's a very minimalist soundtrack, very minimal, but it's very effective. It's a weird one to drive around listening to. It really is, because it's just, like I said, it's almost not music. But when you watch the movie and you hear it, it gives it an air of eeriness that it probably wouldn't have.
Right.
If they just went for traditional holiday music.
Right.
You know
just
what I mean?
That distorted atmospheric sound.
Yes.
Yeah.
It feels like you're in a madman's mind, a broken mind. And I love that score, scant as it is.
Yeah. I have one I know you're going to agree with, Harry Manfredini's Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th is a story of madness carried beyond its limit. It is a film that is not recommended for the very young or for people who are prone to nightmares. Friday the 13th, you may only see it once, but that will be enough. Friday the 13th, rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent.
Seeing Friday the 13th as a kid, I wasn't able to grasp much. Like when I saw it in a theater, and just like these little core memories that I took from the movie were very faint. Like it's almost, I'm sure, like the same thing, like a lot of people take, like the mom's voice, like things like that. But what really stood out to me was that score, that sound, and then just the darkness of the woods.
Yeah.
You know, and that total helpless feeling.
Well, what's funny is there's moments in that soundtrack that sound so tranquil, and it's deceptively tranquil, which is scary.
Yeah.
And I'm not even talking about the end, the boat. You know, the synthy. I'm just talking about like when someone's walking through the woods or whatever, and you get kind of a twinkling sound.
Yeah.
You know, it's eerie without being oppressive until he gets the strings in there. You know, the hard.
And those strings that Manfredini uses.
Dun, 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 dun. It's scary.
It is.
You know,
it is. Yeah.
In a way that Halloween isn't. Everyone on Friday the 13th has freely admitted we were just ripping off Halloween. Well, you could have ripped off the score too. You could have, part of what makes Halloween so scary is its score. And there's nothing about it like Halloween. It's very almost Bernard Herrmann.
Oh, yes.
You know?
Yep.
It does its own thing.
Yeah.
But Harry, he finds a way to blend tranquil with sinister. And I think that's why it was so iconic.
I
you know?
agree.
And he also played it like John Williams in Jaws. There's scenes where someone's watching and you don't hear the score. Well, that's your false scare. That's a dipshit with the headdress on running around. But when it is the killer, the score follows.
Yes.
You know they're being watched by someone they don't know.
Yep.
And they're going to attack. What I like about Manfredini is he scored every Jason movie. With slight exception, they're all very different.
They are.
He kept the theme, but some are meaner than others. Some are goofier than others. Like part 3's the disco one.
It's fucking hilarious.
It is. I love it.
I
think
love
it's
it too.
Great.
I think I told, I don't know, maybe I didn't tell the story. We were going to lunch. We jumped in my car and part 3 was queued up. And it was really funny.
Was that on purpose?
Oh, yeah. No, I was dicking with him.
You were dicking with him?
Yeah, I was dicking with him. Because he's just like, ugh, you know, every time he talks about it. But I fucking genuinely love it.
I do too.
And God, it was so fucking funny. He's just like the whole time looking at me and shaking his head. And I'm talking windows down, music blasting. And he's just like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Asshole.
And we pulled into the restaurant. And like we shut off the music and he's just like, thank God, I thought it would never end. Like it was funny.
I don't understand, because to me, Friday 3, that's the party movie.
Oh yeah.
It's just a popcorn.
Oh, yeah.
It's fun. It's goofy. And that theme,
it's my favorite one of the whole series.
3?
Yes.
It's one of mine. I think my favorite's 7, The New Blood.
I see why. I definitely see why.
But even that score is heavier.
It's meaner.
It is meaner.
Yeah.
But part 3 it's the fun one.
It is fun.
More so than 6.
Yeah.
Even though 6 was literally trying to be comedic. You know, part 3 was just the fun movie.
It was.
That disco score is a riot.
Yeah.
I fucking love it.
I mean, I was so like happy that I was able to see it in the theater.
In 3D?
In 3D.
Nice.
And I was just so, because I'd only seen 2 on in the theater. I didn't see 1.
No?
In the theater. No.
I've since seen 1.
Okay.
In the theater.
In the theater, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, I have 2 after.
Yeah.
But like in the initial run, it was 2 on up.
I think the first one I saw at the theater was Jason Goes to Hell.
Okay.
But that was because I was so little when the majority of those came out.
Right.
In fact, I was born the year the third one came out.
Okay.
And I wasn't at the time allowed to watch slasher movies.
Right, yeah.
And, you know, at that time, even my cool uncles who would sneak me into scary stuff, still too young for these. But by the time Jason Goes to Hell came out, I was like, you want to go see this one? Yeah, let's go see it. You know, so that was my first theatrical Jason movie.
You know, I know Freddy does it, but there was something sinister about Jason where he would almost like jab him a bit. You know, he would like not poke fun, but it was like he was taking real joy. And it was like almost like a cat with a mouse. Mm-hmm. And it was almost comedic at times.
Sure.
You know, and I loved that about Jason because he was fucking mean.
He was.
And it really showed in the kills.
You killed his mom.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it out on everyone.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
Yeah. Something about that third movie just kills me. My favorite shot literally is when Dana Kimmel puts the axe in his head,
Mm-hmm.
and then his hands
And he
come
does
out, and she screams, "No!"
Yeah.
Oh, it's just out of sheer disbelief.
Yeah.
Like, I can't fucking believe it. It's just one of my favorite moments. I love that shit.
It was good.
I'm gonna segue back to Creepshow for a minute.
Okay.
Only because up until a few years ago, the Creepshow 2 soundtrack was never released.
Yes.
Waxwork got a hold of it, thankfully released it, and that has become one of my favorite scores as well.
Okay.
Creepshow 2.
Welcome to Creepshow 2. Stephen King and George Romero are at it again. So walk, run,
One more step and blam!
swim if you have to. But whatever you do, don't take your time, because the scares come twice as quickly in Creepshow 2, rated R. We'll be seeing you. Starts Friday, May 1st at a theater near you.
The reason I say that, it's nothing like John Harrison's score from the first one. There's no piano, moderate synth. This one's a little more electric guitar.
Uh-huh.
The opening theme is very synthy, but this one's by Les Reed and Rick Wakeman.
Okay.
Another one where each story has its own flair. Old Chief Woodenhead has kind of a sad westerny sound. When the Indian's on screen, you get your tom-toms and, you know, everything matches what it's supposed to. The Hitchhiker, because she's a snobby bitch. It's, you know, the high violins, very snobby music.
Yeah.
But the one that stood out to me, I remember driving out to an appointment.
Okay.
I'm listening to it in my car because I managed to find it at a convention. It was, I'd already bought the limited edition vinyl.
Okay.
So I had it, but I'm like, I want to listen to this in the car. How do I get to listen to it in the car? And at a convention, someone was selling CD bootlegs.
Uh-huh.
So I bought that too, just to hear it as I went somewhere. It was amazing hearing the opening theme because it's so weird. It's a weird theme, but it was fun to listen to in the car. But the one that stood out as I was going to this appointment was The Raft. And what's funny is The Raft probably has the most Creepshow-esque score. It's got that spooky, you know, kind of like the Geordie Verrill. But without watching The Raft and just having the isolated music, I found myself really unnerved by it. Because it's pretty much just a layer of low synth nonstop, with little highlights in between and then little weird watery sounds. And I just remember thinking, weirdly enough, it reminded me of like a shockumentary score that just sounds creepy. What was funny was Creepshow 2 never scared me. That one, it's more mean-spirited than the first one. It's kind of the asshole younger brother, but it's a fun movie. Problem is, it never genuinely scared me. There's moments in The Raft that are very unsettling, but the score almost made it scarier when I heard it isolated.
Oh.
There's a lot of nuances and I believe that's the Wakeman portion of the soundtrack. I think Les Reed did everything else. Rick Wakeman was given The Raft.
All right.
And without the distraction of visuals, just to listen to the score, it's very creepy, very unnerving. I had a whole new respect for that soundtrack as a whole, mostly because of that. There's like 2 or 3 tracks of just that score. And it gets more intense. Obviously, you know, by the time he jumps off the raft or when people are being eaten, it heightens up and goes, dun, 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 dun. You know, it almost does the Real 9 thing from The Fog. But it's the quieter moments that are like, feels very weird.
Yeah.
And if you haven't heard it, I suggest you do, because it just doesn't sound right. I almost can't marry it to the film.
Wow.
It's in the film.
Yeah.
But because there's so much going on, you don't really get to appreciate it. And listening to the score on its own, I just remember pulling into the parking lot and like waiting for the track to end. I'm just listening. I could have just went in.
Yeah.
It was weird, the feeling it gave me in the pit of my stomach. And I love it.
Yeah.
It's because it scared me. You know, it genuinely put me off kilter a little bit. So, you know, props to Waxwork Records because.
And that's a beautiful release.
Yes.
The gatefold.
The gatefold's amazing.
Yeah.
Did you get all 3 designs? Yeah. I got the Raft one, like the teal with the black in
Yeah.
the middle. It was super cool.
Yeah, there was the yellow one.
There was, and the yellow one I think was for Hitchhiker, because Chief Woodenhead looked like wood, didn't it? Like a mahogany type. That was a great triple threat right there.
It was.
But,
it was.
Yeah, if you have that soundtrack, because again, that one, I don't think that's on Spotify. I don't think you could just listen to it. Maybe YouTube.
Maybe. I think it is on YouTube.
Somebody probably ripped it.
I think it is on YouTube.
But the RAF tracks in particular, give them a listen without the benefit of visual.
Yeah.
And tell me what you think.
Yeah.
Because I was surprised at how much it got under my skin. Because I couldn't associate, it was so weird. I couldn't marry it to the visuals that I know went with those moments.
Right.
It just sounded like it was from a completely different movie and was far more ominous than even the film it's from.
Yeah.
You know? So that was an interesting one that I had to throw in there because it's just, but when a soundtrack can do that, you got to take note.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'm going to go back a ways.
Okay.
It's Psycho, 1960.
Alfred Hitchcock's greatest shocker. No one admitted except at the beginning. Psycho, rated M, suggested for mature audiences.
Bernard Herrmann. Wow. Like, wow. Just the drive up.
Yes.
Like after she pulled her shit, you know, on her man and she's going up.
You're talking about the dun, 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 dun. Surprisingly scarier and more intense than the shower scene.
Hands down.
Because that's what everyone thinks of.
Hands down. No, I think of that.
Immediately people think of the shower scene.
I think of that drive up.
No.
Yeah.
That's even, if I'm not mistaken, isn't that the opening credits too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the opening credits.
The titles kind of zipping back and forth.
Yep.
Yeah, that's super awesome.
Yeah, that same thing. Like I'm a big fan of strings.
Yeah.
You know, I love that stuff.
It's wonderfully orchestral.
Yeah,
you know,
it really is.
And it sets the exact tone
Yep.
for that film. Everyone thinks of the high strings when it comes to Psycho, but that almost march, you know, it's really fucking good.
Yeah.
I love that shit.
That was. And then another one real quick, and this is my last one, and this is obviously, and I'm sure it's on yours as well, but it's Dawn of the Dead.
In 1968, George Romero brought us Night of the Living Dead. It became the classic horror film of its time.
It gets up and kills. The people it kills get up and kill.
Now, George Romero brings us the most intensely shocking motion picture experience for all times. Dawn of the Dead.
This situation must be controlled before it's too late. They are multiplying too rapidly.
Night of the Living Dead has ended. Dawn of the Dead is here.
Not that room, not that room!
They must be destroyed on sight.
Dawn of the Dead. This picture contains scenes of violence that may be considered shocking. No one under 17 will be admitted. Dawn of the Dead. From United Film Distributing Company.
I didn't put it.
Really?
But I love it. I do.
Okay.
Now, are you talking about the library cues or the goblin?
You know, I'm going to have to actually say all of it. I'm going to say all of it because they're hand in hand.
They are.
Pretty much like your Christine.
I think so too.
They're hand in hand.
Yeah.
Like they really are. Like, I mean, just all the sounds of like when they're turning on all the power in the mall.
Just the weird...
These just weird little blips and beeps and
noises.
Yeah. It's very childlike.
Yep.
Theme parkish carousel stuff, you know, and
even the end credits, it's just
yeah.
And it's like this is so fucking absurd.
It is.
You know?
But you know what?
And yet it's 2 hours of pure carnage.
Pure carnage. It's so dark.
It is.
You know, and I think it's something that actually adds another layer to the film that if he'd have just put scary dark music, I don't think it would have worked as well. But having this type of music in there, it just adds another level of fear to this movie. Because it's almost like it doesn't give you a chance to get comfortable.
No.
Because the music is just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I'm seeing something, but then I'm feeling something different than what I'm seeing. And it's like a total mind fuck.
And this is mostly after, like, the score when they go to the basement of the apartment complex.
Yeah,
it's
way
like,
after that. I mean, yeah.
You know?
I think it's when they're hovering over the mall.
Yeah.
And they land in, then it kicks off.
Yes.
Into all of that.
Yep.
But
yeah, the goofy library cues.
I think they're great, man.
The movie wouldn't be the same.
It wouldn't be the
without
same
them at all.
if it was just some like take like a creep show or a fog type score and adding to it, I don't think it would work.
Well, what's funny, we were talking about John Harrison's Creepshow earlier, and you kind of get what you're theorizing with Day of the Dead.
Yes.
Because it's a much darker film, not funny.
No.
Like Dawn
No.
often is. And you do get that score. I don't think there's any library music in that film. I could be wrong.
I don't think there is.
But Harrison he kind of gave you the idea of what Dawn could have sounded like. And I think it would have changed the mood considerably.
It would have.
I don't know what he would have done with it.
Yeah.
I think it'd be kind of neat if he put out a limited release that you could play during the movie.
I mean, that would be cool.
Just to see.
Yeah.
Because, look, Dracula, Philip Glass created a whole new score for the 31 Dracula. And it's cool.
It is cool.
It's cool to have the option.
Yeah.
But I'm curious what John could have done with the first two films had he had his druthers, and what it could have felt like if he was able to score all three.
Yeah.
Because the third, the Day of the Dead, is strangely clinical. It sounds, almost like an 80s infomercial. It's strange. It's a strange, otherworldly soundtrack.
Yeah.
But it's oppressive too, because of what you're seeing.
Right.
What could he have done for Dawn, or Night for that matter, that Library Cues or Goblin couldn't? I'd be curious to see,
That's pretty cool. I've never thought about that. Yeah, I never thought of it. We were listening to it today in the car.
Yes, we were. I loved it. I really enjoyed the Day of the Dead soundtrack.
Yeah, no, so do I. So
I guess I got one more for us before we wrap it up.
Okay.
And again, it's another compilation album, but it played a big part of my childhood when I was in my teenage years.
Okay.
And that's the Crow soundtrack.
In a world without justice, one man was chosen to protect the innocent and to make the wrong things right.
It's not a good day to be a bad guy.
The film the critics are calling dazzling and fiercely hypnotic.
Bye-bye, Bertie.
Brandon Lee is sensational. A triumph. Brandon Lee.
I love you.
The Crow. Rated R. Now playing at theaters everywhere.
Jesus, track for track. Wow. Amazing, amazing, amazing. I mean, right from the opening Cure song, it just sets a tone.
Wow. Yeah.
Such a tone.
Yeah.
Dead Souls by Nine Inch Nails. Big Empty by Stone Temple Pilots, which I had heard, my brother told me they had actually done a different song for The Crow, and for whatever reason they didn't use it and pulled The Big Empty from their Purple album. But again, that's another one where the music is so impeccably chosen. The one that really sticks with me and used to bring me to tears all the time, and I actually kind of avoided it for a long time. Is. The Jane Siberry song.
Yep.
Difficult as fuck to listen to. And it's the last track on the fucking album. That's the track that you leave with.
Yeah.
If you're listening to it beginning to end. There's no way you can't disassociate it with the tragedy behind the film.
Heartbreaking.
And it's a beautiful song.
It is.
But I can't listen to it. And if I'm surfing through that soundtrack, I skip it every time now, just because it fucks me up.
It is
really
very
fucks
tough. It is very, very tough.
But that's a soundtrack that has emotional resonance with me.
Yeah, same.
There's a strange feeling that washes over me every time I listen to any of the songs on that soundtrack.
Right.
Whether it's just admiring the film it came from, to the darkness the movie presents, to the sadness of the entire endeavor. That's a soundtrack it's a hard one to shake. But every track is just so fucking good.
Yep.
So fucking good. That one's kind of a titan in my collection as far as the compilation soundtracks are concerned.
No, I feel the same way.
That one just, to me, that's my 90s,
Yeah.
That's my junior high soundtrack.
Yeah.
And that was not a positive
No.
era of my time, I
can see that.
But that soundtrack was a retreat for me.
Yeah.
As I'm sure it was for many people.
It's a beautiful soundtrack.
It is. That was my last one. I'm really kind of proud that we didn't overlap too much. We kept it pretty.
Yeah, well, that's cool.
The variety was nice.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I think it was another fun one.
Yes, it was. It was
informative.
Indeed.
We got to nerd out a bit.
Yes, we did. And if you're into music and soundtracks, hopefully we gave you enough stuff to hunt.
Yeah.
Hunt them down,
Yeah, and then maybe we can try to put together some sort of even if it's not on Spotify, just maybe some sort of track list from this that we can put out that people can, I'll go find this myself.
Solid.
Like compile
YouTube,
something.
YouTube alone will have all of them, regardless of rarity, cost, whatever. But yeah, I think it would be cool if you guys went out there and, hit us up at 5195podcast@gmail.com, our Instagram. Let us know what you think. What soundtracks kicked you in the heart? You know what I mean? Or scared you or inspired you. These are just a few of ours. We could probably have done a whole nother show.
Oh, we could have.
Yeah, we could always do soundtracks part 2.
Yeah.
Somewhere down the line. But yeah, that should give you guys enough material to hunt down and enjoy.
I agree. All right, man. Well, until next time.
See you guys.